Okay, so as we were saying, our end product, we want to have some artwork that we have one appearance when your mouse is nowhere around it. This would be called our up state. When we hover over it, we get our over state, which will be a different appearance. And then when we press it down, it changes in appearance again and it plays a sound. All right, so hours and hours of fun playing with these buttons, all right? So to create this, I did put some kind of general directions in the Animate notes. So, you know, that's if you want to follow kind of or think about the steps, and maybe this becomes a some quiz questions, which don't forget tomorrow we are doing a quiz on the Animate stuff we did. But these would be our steps here that we're going to follow, all right? So I'm going to just kind of pull this off to the side, and I'm going to follow along with this as I would like you all to do as we're starting here, right? So in Animate, we're going to create a new document. And they have a bunch of presets, which if you look here, you can find different mobile devices. All right, and I would think that let's try to start planning for that. Hopefully I can find the solution to get these so we can play them on your mobile devices. I think that would be pretty cool if we could go around and, you know, if you could have these files on your phones and be able to play soundboards and scare people or just get some laughs or something like that. Now, I thought there was one on here for try to find your device, or you could probably search for, like I think like I have an iPhone X. I'm going to just search online for the screen dimensions of it. All right, so if we don't have that, if it's not in there in the presets, you can just Google search. So I'm going to say iPhone X pixel dimension. All right, so it's telling us 2436 would be the height because that's bigger, and then 1125 would be the width there. All right, so I'm going to use those numbers and I'm going to put them into here. So I have 1125 by 2436. Very important that we want to have ActionScript 3.0 as our platform type. All right, otherwise when we go to test, it won't really play the same way, and also some of your graphics I think even show up differently. So you're going to get your dimensions of your mobile device that you have. Frame rate isn't important really, but you do want to make sure your platform is on ActionScript 3.0, and we're going to do a create. All right, so that would be our first set. I set up my dimensions to be in a portrait mode. You could definitely, if you wanted your app to be laid out in landscape mode, you could kind of reverse your dimensions. And if you ever need to change your document size, you can always go to Modify and Document, and it brings you to this screen where you can change your dimensions if you needed to resize it. We could have done it in millimeters or inches or something like that also, but pixels is pretty typical for screen resolution. So for whatever reason, when you start off in Animate and you create the document, it seems like it's like zoomed in. So remember, you can do a Control minus to zoom out. I would try to fit everything in your screen. All right, so let's start here. My next step on my directions, and if anybody was following, or actually, why don't you guys open up those notes, the Animate notes, and go to the soundboard section. All right, so in the classroom, I've created these wonderful notes so that you have some reference to follow along. So if you click on that, you should have this document. All right, and then I don't know if you guys have your headings, but basically you just scroll down to the bottom, and we're on the section for soundboard. All right, so let's open that up, and that way you guys know where this is, and you can think about this as you're doing your own soundboard or know where it is. Isaiah? Horizontal we said you can go to modify and then document, and you can just change your units. So you probably had them in the wrong order there. We would be now on step 2. All right. So Isaiah, what is step 2 on my soundboard directions? Good. All right. So we're going to draw a background. You could use probably the rectangle tool. All right. And where do we find that, or why are we saying to turn the drawing mode on? Do you remember what that does, Isaiah? What's the difference between drawing mode on or off?
I guess the off doesn't let you draw and the on does.
No. Anybody else remember drawing mode on or off? If it's on, it makes it so that it's like a symbol pretty much already. But if it's off, remember, then it'll merge shapes together. And you see like that dotted pixelated pattern. You remember that? So on the bottom of your toolbar is where we set that. So actually mine is off now, my drawing mode, because it's not dark in there. So if I were to draw another shape, and let's see if I'm just kind of to get some contrast here. Remember, so if I draw this one now, all right, and I move this, now it's kind of subtracted from it. All right, so we want to have our drawing mode on so that we have independent shapes which are not going to really be subtracted from each other. All right, so I'm going to turn this on. All right, I know if you have the 2020 version, it shows up in your properties panel in a different place, but it will kind of work the same. All right, so I'm going to draw my rectangle here, and there's my background. All right, step 3. Ocean, what's step 3? All right, what is a call to action? Have you ever heard that word before? Or that term? Anybody? Call to action? It's telling your audience to do something, right? If they don't know that this is a button, or if you don't give them directions, then they, we have to, I hate to say, dumb things down a little bit, but you need to make sure people understand what they're supposed to do. So you should have some direction, as I had, press, button, like I had. I don't know if you can maybe be informative, or you can kind of be funny, or like I had press button in emergency. You can think about what your sound is going to be and maybe do something that relates to that. So if I go to paragraph and I can center that. Kendra, question? It's right on the bottom of your toolbar, underneath the magnet, and you have to have a shape selected in order for it to be active. All right, so again, with your drawing objects, you select the shape, and then on the bottom of your toolbar, this little shape right above the magnet, to turn the drawing mode on, we want it to be darkened. And then when you draw, things will not merge. All right, so this would be my call to action, telling my viewer what to do. All right, press this button if you have an emergency. Press this button to hear some calming ocean sounds. Whatever. Something to that extent, so that we do have some direction for your viewer. All right, let's go online here. MG, what does step 3 say? I'm sorry, step 4. MG, are you there?
Yes, sorry.
Okay. Do you have the notes open?
Yes, I do.
All right. What does step 4 say?
Drop and 4 button states.
All right. So our button states are up, over, down, and hit. You don't necessarily have to do the hit state. That's basically after you've pressed the button is the appearance that you could create. But it's not necessary. You should definitely, though, have three button states, though, right? Up, over, and down. So you can use whatever shape you want. In the future, you can use images for your own project, which I would highly recommend. It makes it a little more interesting to look at. All right, but for now, let's just use some circles or squares. All right, so if I make, so maybe this would be my up state, or something like that. Right now, we're not converting them to symbols. We're just drawing the appearance of what we want them to be. So I'm going to make one. I'll copy and paste it because I want them to kind of be lined up. All right. I will change the color of this one to maybe red. So this might be my over. Doesn't really matter. And then I would make the last one, something for my down state. All right, so you're just making three shapes that are going to represent your different button states. And when I say a state, it's like an appearance, right? What's the button going to look like when you're nowhere near it? What's the button going to look like when you're over it, as just hovering over it? And then what's it going to look like when you press down on it? That's what we're looking for in order to get our artwork set up. So now that we have our kind of artwork created, we are going to, what's it say in step 5, Brinley?
Convert drawings to graphics.
All right, good. So, and how do we do that? How do we convert them, Brinley? Don't remember? Okay, so that's one way. We can click, go to modify, convert to symbol. So, and we're just, as it says, we're going to convert it to a graphic. And I would definitely name it so that you can kind of remember. So this is going to be my down. All right, I'm going to call it that. All right, so that's one way to convert to a graphic. We can see it there. Let's look at the red one. Another way is to just simply right-click, and I can then convert to a symbol. I'm going to call this over. And then my last one, I can see that we can also press F8, and that is a third way to convert, but my shortcut keys are not working. So this would be my up, all right? So you should now have 3 graphics in your library, up, over, and down. All right. Ooh, I have to add a step here. I'm going to say delete. All right, anybody have any problems with converting to graphics? All right, step 6, I'm going to tell you to delete the over and the down from your stage. Now, are they gone forever by deleting them from the stage? Isaiah, you're saying no? Why not?
Because you have them in your library.
Exactly, right? So just because we delete from the stage doesn't mean they're gone forever. We can always come back to your library and reapply them, all right? Because, we think about our concept of nesting, right? We're going to make a button out of this shape, so we will have a sub-timeline contained inside of this graphic object, all right? So after we've deleted those 2 appearances from the stage, those 2 graphics, now we're going to go to step 7, which, let's see, Aaliyah, what does step 7 say? Are you there, Aaliyah?
Yeah, my laptop won't turn on.
So what are you using to be in the meeting? Okay, so we would go in here, and just like we converted it to a graphic, we can do the same thing. So now we're going to convert it to a symbol. But this time, all right, so this is new, right? We have not talked about buttons yet. So we're going to change the type to button, and I think I would name it button. All right, so as we're looking in our library, we can identify what different things are there. All right, so I converted the graphic now to a button, named it button, and I can press OK. And now, if, as I said here, we double click it to edit it, look at our timeline. What do we see that is unique about our timeline that we did not see before? Leslie, what do you see there on the timeline? Have you gotten to that point yet? Are you not yet? All right. Well, what do you see? Can you see the screen up there? Is it? I don't know if that glare is bad. What do you see about the timeline that's different? You don't see anything different? Isaiah, what do you see different?
That they have, I would say different, they have one that says up, down, over, hit.
Yes, all right. And we didn't see that before with our movie clips or our graphics, right? So this is what's unique about that. All right, I'm going to pause right now and kind of get everybody. All right, so now we're going to get our appearances of our different buttons, all right? And then we'll add our sound and we'll be done, all right? So step 8, Kendra, what does step 8 say? Okay. So, actually, let's see. All right, so now we have our initial state of our button. So now we're going to basically assign those other graphics for our other appearances. So as Kendra said, we are going to go to the over state. We're going to right click and we're going to select insert blank keyframe. All right, and then we're going to drag the image for the over onto the stage, but oh, sorry, Noah. Thank you. I guess you saw me doing stuff and you couldn't hear me, so good observation. All right, so as I was saying, you're just going to right-click in your overstate and insert a blank keyframe, and then I am recommending that you use the onion skin so that you can see where your up button was. All right, otherwise they're going to be misaligned. So then all I'm going to do is drag this over and get it aligned with that. Isaiah? Sure. So I'll redo this step. I'll just remove this frame. All right. So when we get to our overstate, we're going to right click and insert a blank keyframe. So that gives us the potential to have some other artwork in there. And then I'm going to turn on my onion skin so I can see where the placement of my previous button was. Then I'm just going to drag over the over. All right. So we have this appearance, which is going to happen at this point. All right. So now if we go back to our main scene, all we see is our up state, but if we test it by pressing Control Enter, we can now hover over our button and we have a different appearance to it. All right, so that's what we should be doing, and I'll check that and see if anybody's stuck at that point. So that is our test player there, as we're seeing there. All right, so we have our up and our over. If you're having issues, I know going around, some people maybe didn't change that action script 3.0. It certainly makes a difference as far as testing this. All right, so right now, if we test this, we should have the ability to hover over and it changes to one color. And now to do our down, we're going to repeat that process that we did. So and actually, my directions, I guess, were a little bit off there. So instead of repeating 7 and 8, we are going to repeat steps 8 and 9, I guess. That's what it should be. All right, so for the down state, if we went back to step 8, it says insert blank keyframe. I guess it shouldn't say in over though. Maybe I'll redo these directions because I know that could cause some confusion. So I'm going to say for step 10, we will insert a blank keyframe in the down, drag the over, or drag, so it should be drag the down image onto stage and align using the onion skin. All right, so I think that makes a little more sense. So we have down going in alignment with that. Oh, I just did this in the over. I didn't follow my directions. So right click in the down, insert blank keyframe. Now we're going to bring the down over. And now these words are probably getting confusing too. I'm bringing the down and aligning it with the previous symbols. All right, and now if we do a control enter, we have a hover, our over is our red, and we press the green, we have our down. All right, so we have up, over, down. All right, there's our appearances changing. And then our last thing to do is to get our audio in here. So step 12, we're going to import our audio to the library. So file, import to library. And let's see if I have this in here, which I should. Multimedia, soundboard, emergency siren sound, short burst. All right, and then just like we did with our last project, we have to drag it, and actually you want it to be in your down state, and because you think, we have to give computers directions, so we're saying when we press down, we want our audio to play. So therefore, we're going to select our down frame and just drag our sound anywhere onto the stage. Because remember, if we drag it onto the timeline, that doesn't work. All right, but if we drag it onto the stage, now we can see a little waveform appearing in that frame. And now if we test it, up, over. Oh, and I forgot one thing, that's right. So it doesn't play automatically, which is kind of annoying and frustrating at first. So if we click on this button in this frame and go to properties, and for our sound, actually, I guess you have to click on the frame itself also. We're going to sync event. I think that was the key to that. So now if I test this, up, over, down. All right, so now we have our sound. All right, so that step, and I will add that to the direction. So we drag it to the stage, and then we're going to say select down frame in timeline, go to properties panel, and we're going to say change sync to event. And actually I'm going to take a screenshot of this too and put this in the directions here. All right, I think I could even get fancy here. Can I do, no, I thought there were arrows to do that. All right, so I'm just going to copy this and we will paste that into our notes. So go to the properties panel and make sync, we'll say equal event. All right, so that should be the process for doing this. And again, so when you test it, wrong screen, that we, and you can go back to your main scene, control enter, we have up, over, and all right, so now we have our sound playing. Okay. Questions, repeats?